YouTube, what the crap's going on? Heir of Carthage here, back on Total War Rome 2. Today we're going to be looking at the Nervii. They are the next in line for the faction focus, and I have a pretty entertaining battle for you, I'm not going to lie. So let's jump right into it. The Roman player here brings a very odd army. So cav heavy. 2 Praetorian cav, 2 Equites Extraordinari auxiliary cav, and a Numidian cav. Versus the Nervii, who can field Mighty Horse and Levy Freeman. Don't see that being a good pick. And then, check out this deployment. I was like, what? What's going on? There's like this horde of column formation Roman cav over here. And then my opponent's infantry like all over here. He's only got 3 Praetorian Guard being protected by 4 Vigiles. And then he's got a Hastati here. And then there's a auxiliary Balearic Slingers. And I was like, what? And of course, he takes off running as soon as the battle starts. I was like, do we really? We got a corner camper. This is gonna be fun. It's been a long time since I got to fight an army that went and corner camped, and I was like, this is not the army that my opponent wants to be corner camping with, so I'm pretty excited. This is gonna be a slaughter of epic proportion, and these Romans are in for a javelin-filled day of pain. Of course, it's gonna take me a long time to get across the map. The Nervii are not really well suited to the desert, and I'm going to have to walk part of the time and let my guys rest and all that stuff. And then my opponent comes over here, brings all his cav up, and I was like, what is he even going to do with all this cav? He's got all his guys, and then he dismounts the cav and starts running for the corner, and I was like, okay, this just got from weird to even more weird. And so I dispatch immediately some Mighty Horse from my lines, and I'm going to come, just all you have to do is touch the cavalry and the horses, and they take off running, and they cannot be remounted. So then my opponent has now turned all of his guys into foot troops here. And if you look, they don't lose their bonus versus large, but they lose a ton of charge bonus, and they actually lose some melee attack. And it's the same thing for Praetorian Guard here. And they don't lose their bonus versus large, which means that when they dismount, I'm guessing that my Levy Freemen still get their bonus versus large when throwing javelins or fighting them. So, I don't know. Not a good situation, and if you're going to want to watch something funny here, let's watch these horses scatter. So this kind of reminds me of that once when the horses just went everywhere when my opponent got surrounded and then dismounted all of his cavalry at once, and then just horses running everywhere. So be free, my horsey friends, be free. Go find your family. Just look at all the horses like ants all over the map. So yeah, I told you I had an entertaining battle for you. This is going to be one. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward, of course, because I'm just moving my guys across the map and getting ready for what is, again, no doubt going to be a slaughter. Here's the corner camping Romans. Corner camping is an ancient art in Total War. It's only used by the finest players in their finest hour, and it is most definitely honorable and intelligent. I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to trash my opponent here. I'm just having a fun time. He can corner camp all he wants. I really don't care. This kind of stuff, actually, I find it pretty entertaining, so that's why I'm having a good time with this. He's got his Balearic Slingers up front, and he's going to bring his dismounted Numidian cav up here, which I guess these guys are actually a fairly capable skirmisher on foot, but I don't know why you'd ever want them on foot. Anyway, yeah, he's going to bring his skirmishers up front, and there's nothing like some MLG Freeman here to push back the skirmishers. And then I have my own Celtic skirmishers too, which really wish to share their javelins with the Praetorian Guard. Don't get me wrong, these guys look really cool, and Praetorian Guard are a strong unit. They're just almost never worth their price. They are a very cool looking unit. They look awesome. They're really fun to use in campaign, but again, just one of those units that just doesn't serve a purpose in online battles, unfortunately. Because they are a really sweet looking unit, and so are Armored Legionaries. Very cool. Kind of out of time period for the rest of these factions, but whatever. I mean, it's fun to see that segmented armor on the Romans because it looks so freaking awesome. If nothing else, the Romans at least knew some good style for their soldiers there. So go ahead and fast forward and move my army on in. Again, I had to rest some of my men because I ran for a little while on the map. You can see my Oathsworn are actually still a little bit tired. I have 3 Levy Freemen, I think like 4 or 5, I think I have 5 Fierce Swords, 4 Celtic Warriors, 4 Mighty Horse, 2 Celtic Skirmishers, and 2 Oathsworn. It would have been a fun match to play against a Roman sword spam type army. Don't know how well I would have done, but it would have been fun. The Nervii have a cav advantage, of course. The Mighty Horse are really quite good for their price. The only real disadvantage for the Nervii versus other big-time barbarian factions is these guys who come shirtless into battle and they have very little armor. Fierce Swords are a great unit. They have Frenzy, they're good on the charge, but that armor makes them very susceptible to cav and missiles. So again, use my Levy Freeman here to push back enemy skirmishers. And because my opponent's just camping in the corner and he's got his Javelin arm units in the back, I'm just going to wheel up and just launch every Javelin that my cheap units have. And my opponent is going to take a lot of pain just from javelins on cheap units. And this is where these cheap units can be super useful. Again, watch the Levy Freeman over here going to hurl their javelins probably into the auxiliary Numidian cav. Nope, over here into the Vigiles and Extraordinary, causing quite a bit of damage to the Vigiles actually. Numidian cavs getting wrecked. They actually got a decent number of kills here, considering how few men they are. Watch this. I actually... Well, no, I did that on purpose, so charge the Numidian cav, but I think here in a minute... no, I think I do it later with my Celtic Warriors. I was getting mad at my guys throwing their javelins at these couple of Numidian cavs, so I would just click an attack order and throw the javelins at these cav units that are dismounted. So my Levy Freeman discharging all their javelins, 20 kills here, 36 kills on this one. 11 kills here, so I mean, I'm gonna just pick away at the Roman army here before I engage, and why not? This is why you're not gonna want to corner camp. And in Rome 1 corner camping, the Romans could wreck you with Pilla as well. My opponent sees this, charges out of Hastati. I'm gonna countercharge his Hastati and then bring this unit in as well. So I'll kill the Hastati. And at this point, if my opponent does come out and support his Hastati, great. He's going to have to come out, and eventually he'll get killed by my Fierce Swords. Watch this. This is where I click the attack order, I think just to pitch the javelins, and my guys didn't. So that didn't end up working out. I'll end up pulling it back, and then these guys over here, not quite in javelin. Well, yeah, they are. So there they are, hurling their javelins, killing one Extraordinary and a bunch of Vigiles. So just going to keep chucking javelins. Look at that, 17 kills just from javelins. These units over here are going to work this Hastati over 2-on-1. Even if the Celtic Warriors just get a good charge, they are capable of beating a Hastati. It is a good unit, the Hastati is, for the price. But 2 Celtic Warriors are more than enough to handle a Hastati. Yeah, just look at the javelins go. 30 kills from javelins. Here's where I'm going to get some decent javelin hurl there. See my guys throwing them at the Praetorian Cav, I think is my target. Yeah, I've already killed 7 Praetorian Cav there, 1 there. So just going to let my guys discharge all these javelins. This poor Roman box in the corner is really not going to like how many javelins my army has to throw at them. It's almost like a Javelin Day invitation, basically, this one. So the Romans may not have wanted to be outflanked by the Nervii, but instead they are going to have death rained on them from above. As you can see, some of these units over here are already learning the pain that is caused by javelins being thrown in their face. What's funny is, look, there's another guy laying here on top of this guy, and it almost makes it look like his... Look at the blood glitching out, too. It makes it look like his leg is broken at the same time. It's pretty funny. So my Celtic Warriors have used up their ammo. We're about to kill the Hastati here, so I'm going to go ahead and move up my Fierce Swords to begin another round of javelin tossing. And I'm going to pull up my Celtic Skirmishers here in a minute as well, and get them ready to start throwing javelins to soften up these Praetorian Guard. Want them to be nice and soft. Look at them, they do have their Pilla up and armed. These guys do look rad. They look absolutely awesome. And his auxiliary Balearic Slingers are like in the middle of all of his units, so they can't really fire. So they're completely wasted when it comes to corner camping. Celtic Warrior is going to charge in here because my opponent brings some of his cavalry and Vigiles out. Going to get a lot of kills. Just look at the kills on these guys. Just wrecking these dismounted cav and Vigiles. So it's going to go really well for the Celtic Warriors there. Same thing over here. My opponent comes out with the Equites Extraordinary, and Celtic Warriors just going to own all over these guys. So more than happy to take this engagement. I'm just saving the javelins on my Fierce Swords. So slowly but surely this Roman box is just getting destroyed. So corner camping with pikes may be a little more viable, especially if your enemy doesn't bring good skirmishers. You know, you could probably put like a line of militia hoplites, and then maybe some skirmishers behind them, and then pikes or something like that. And that might be a little trickier for someone to deal with. Not that I'm sitting here recommending that you corner camp. Please don't. Most players really won't like it. But for me, again, this one's kind of funny. So watch, my Celtic Skirmishers outrange, of course, the Praetorian Guard. and I'm going to start throwing javelins into them here. And my Celtic skirmishers are going to really start doing some damage to these Praetorian Guard. You see the javelins just flying in here. Happy Javelin Day! So, yeah, Praetorian Guard starting to fall. My opponent goes into Testudo. Not a bad move, actually. Look at all the javelins stuck in their shield. That sucks. For them, it's fine with me. Yeah, so I'm going to have to choose a different target with this Praetorian Guard. I can't remember if I moved my guys back or not. Anyway, my opponent's not going to want to just sit here and get javelins tossed at him, so he's like, you know what? Praetorian Guard, engage. So he brings in his last forces, so now I can just let his guys go ahead and fight through my my Celtic warriors, and then I'll bring Fierce Swords in and do this. So going to get a nice frenzied charge here with the Fierce Swords, get quite a few kills, and if they die, it doesn't matter. I've still got Oathsworn and more Fierce Swords, so I can just kind of piecemeal engage the Roman to death here. Not going to be good engagements for the Romans. Celtic warriors, 125 kills on them. And these guys over here, 154 kills. I mean, just the type of units that they got to face here are just perfect for these units, except for the Praetorian Guard. They're the only unit really capable of killing my Celtic warriors here. And they are going to do so convincingly. But even these guys, of course, already ate all that javelin fire, so it's not good for them. But yeah, I mean, you can see that they are definitely tanky units. They're just not ever going to be worth their price, almost. And again, as soon as my units falter, all I have to do is just charge in the next Fierce Sword and just rinse and repeat until the Romans are dead. And if I need to, I can pull my Oathsworn and eventually my Mighty Horse. And so yeah, not a good scenario. The Roman general gets sniped to death here. He's off of his horses, and my Celtic youths target him. And as soon as the Roman general's gone, then this is really going to turn bad for the Romans, because not all of their units are disciplined here. And so the loss of the general is going to be substantial. Praetorian Guard getting countercharged by Fierce Swords. For some of you who wonder why a lot of people don't use elite Roman infantry, this is why. These Fierce Swords, look how cost effective they are on the charge versus Praetorian Guard. Just going to annihilate 30 some odd Praetorian Guard at way less cost and put up a very nice fight, even in an extended fight. I didn't even use Frenzy there. And then check out these MLG Freemen over here on the side. I'm going to put them in column formation one time when column formation is useful. And I'm going to push right on through and get into the rear of the Romans. So if this wasn't already a GG, it is now. Again, as my Fierce Swords fall, I just have another unit lined up to come in. And then again, all of these Praetorian Cav, I think, still have a bonus versus large applied to them by my Levy Freeman, so I'm perfectly fine with that fight. Fierce Swords getting a nice frenzied charge, and just look, again, the kills stack up against Praetorian Guard. So this is why good mid-tier swords right now make factions so strong, because they are just so useful against other factions. And that's why you're typically going to see a Roman faction bring a whole bunch of veteran legionaries or other units, because you don't want to put 1,300 talent units in the way of Fierce Swords or sword followers. Anyway, so the Roman corner campers were sent to Hades by my troops. Didn't work out this time. Hope you all enjoyed it. Fun game. Honestly, nothing against my opponent here. I'm glad that not every battle is someone going to corner camp, but it really was funny, and it didn't bother me. Not exactly the way I expected to show you the Nervii, but hopefully entertaining nonetheless. So, the Nervii, why are they not as common as Tylus, Boii, and Arverni? Why are they not power factions like them? They are a very good faction, but there's a few key reasons, and I kind of touched on it in the battle, why these guys are not at the top of the list with the Boii. If Fierce Swords had armor, then the Boii would be right up there, but they don't. They do not have armor. They do have Frenzy, which is a very useful thing. They have 60 health, 60 morale, all pretty good. Very nice melee attack on these guys, and a very good charge bonus. And you combine that with the Frenzy, and these are a very good unit. Again, though, they can be interrupted by even light cavalry in the charge and get very damaged, and Heavy Horse will absolutely wreck these guys on the charge because they're listed as medium melee infantry. So that is the drawback of the Nervii right there. It makes them difficult to use. Naked warriors at their disposal again, but these guys are kind of a glass cannon as well, and I think you're better off just sticking with Fierce Swords in this case. But let's go through their units. So they do have access to a Noble Horse General or an Oathsworn General, either one. Oathsworn General with Strategist is always a good way to go, but you also, if you bought Caesar and Gaul, which is the only way you get this faction, you should also have this Bodognatus, or however you pronounce that, general ability. And it gives you Force Concentration and Fighting Spirit, which I can't remember exactly what they do. Let's go start this up real quick and see, because I want to be able to give you the full information. I think they're potentially both very useful. One of them increases attack for units in a certain area, and the other one I think makes units unbreakable for a short period of time. Let's go ahead and fast forward. So Force Concentration, yeah, increases the attack of nearby units, so it has like a small circle, and anything in that circle gets their attack increased, so potentially useful. And then this one makes units unbreakable for a period of time. Let's go see how long both of those last. So the attack, we're going to drop that in here, and I'm going to start a timer real quick. Should have already been ready, but we'll go ahead and run the timer. And how big does it increase their attack? Not bad. Looks like it puts a decent bonus on their attack. And then you can see it counting down here. It's going to last for quite a while, so definitely a potentially useful thing here. Let's say that all your mid-tier swords just went into combat. You drop this, and they get a higher attack for a nice long little while here. It's only halfway through. It looks like it lasts for about a minute. Yeah, it's going to last for almost a minute. So that's going to be potentially very handy, the Force Concentration. And Fighting Spirit is going to make your men unbreakable, and it looks like it probably gets everything in the general's radius, based on what I saw there. And this one also going to last for a nice little while. I'm not timing it specifically, but it looks like it's going to be roughly a minute as well. So I would say Bodognatisk potentially, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, very potentially useful general. Now, of course, the strategist is a great choice for the general, because you can use Second Wind and stuff on your Oathsworn over and over again, but that's a potentially useful one too, because it has a larger effect on your army. So definitely something to keep in mind as well that can help boost the Nervii's power. So yeah, Oathsworn, Noble Horse, and the special general ability going to be what you have to work with. Now, from melee infantry, I'm not going to talk through Celtic Warriors again, because I've talked through them so many times at this point. Good unit, use them. Good meat shields, great for charge bait, also potentially damaging to certain units in the right engagement. Guerrilla Swordsmen can deploy all over the map. If we take a look at their stats, very low armor, but at least they have some for a guerrilla unit. Pretty decent charge stats and sword stats on these guys. Their base morale, though, is very low, and it's going to be difficult to use these guys in multiplayer, but again, gives the Nervii that flexibility to lay an ambush. Naked Warriors, again, on the charge. I really see these guys almost being kind of like shock cavalry. They're a better late game tool than they are early game when troops are fresh and strong. If you get them into the late game when troops are depleted and weaker, Naked Warriors can be a very daunting task to overcome. You're going to have to keep them free of cavalry and skirmishers in order to do that. And at 580 talents, they're not a particularly cheap unit, so I wouldn't recommend doing a lot of them, but maybe holding one until late game can be a good idea. Again, Fierce Swords are going to be your mainline infantry as the Nervii, great unit. The Frenzy gives them a brutal charge. Be careful, though, it will make your men tired. You're going to want to make sure your charge actually hits a high target. Don't charge these guys into Levy Freemen or Celtic Warriors. It's going to ruin things for you. Use your own Celtic Warriors and Levy Freemen to blaze a path for these guys, and then support them with Oathsworn. And you can't go wrong, basically, with that combination with the Nervii. Levy Freemen, a great unit, of course. We've been through them a number of times. Spear Brothers, a nice solid unit here too. They actually have the wedge formation, which is interesting. Cavalry counter tactics, of course, a great deal, and I'm pretty sure they have precursor javelins. I can't remember if these units have precursor javelins. I'm gonna have to take a look real quick, and we'll talk about naked spears at the same time. Let's see if naked spears have the precursor javelin. They both do. Good. So Naked Spears have a really nice attack and a really good bonus versus large. These guys are going to be downright deadly to cavalry. They obviously, since they're naked, lack a lot of armor. I guess this little thing around their arm is about their only protection. Otherwise, a loincloth is the only thing that stands between them and an arrow straight to their nether regions, let's just say it that way. So these guys are very bold when it comes to going into combat this way. These guys in the woods are actually a good choice, because they're going to get cover from the woods, and it's going to slow down cavalry charges against them as well, and a potentially very dangerous unit. They have Frenzied Charge too, which isn't going to be hugely useful, but it's another thing they have. And then, of course, Spear Brothers we just discussed. Wedge formation. It's so funny. Little triangle of men. Reminds me of Shogun 1, seeing them run around like that. In any case, we got to learn what we needed to know there, so let's go ahead and go back out. So, crushing defeat. Shameful display on my part. Celtic Slingers, Celtic Youths, Celtic Skirmishers. Celtic Youths, nice damage for the price, but if you want a little more armor and better shield, go with the Celtic Skirmishers. Gallic Hunters available to you and not as mercenaries, so you can bring a lot of them if you wanted to. Not that I recommend it, but a fun unit. They can fire whilst hidden because they have the snipe ability, so definitely a fun unit. Again, light horse not going to be super helpful to the Nervii. I mean, potentially good. I really see that this mercenary Germanic scouts are actually going to give the Nervii a nice flexibility there with a Jav Cav unit that's also pretty good at charging in after skirmishers. This Germanic scout riders are going to be a very handy unit to have on the Nervii roster. Mighty Horse is a very, very solid cav unit for the price. They're only medium, so be careful around heavier horse, but even against a heavy horse unit, these guys can put up a solid fight with a 47 melee attack. And really good stats overall. They do have Frenzied Charge. Again, going to make your men tired. Maybe kind of helpful, but just be careful about how you use it. And then, of course, they have access to Noble Horse. So the Nervii are a good faction. They're not a top-tier faction, mainly just for one reason, really, and it's the armor on the Fierce Swords. If it was higher, these guys would be a top-tier faction, in my opinion. But you know, until then, they're a little less useful than the Boii and Tylus and the others. But again, a potentially viable faction, and definitely in the right hands, they can be very useful. I've seen Panda Warrior and others use the Nervii to great effect, and they are still a good faction. So definitely a nice faction to have if you don't have Caesar and Gaul and you're looking for more fun factions. Caesar and Gaul adds the Nervii, and I believe it ends up adding Galatia and get Galatia, the Nervii, both of which are good factions. And you also get crap. I can't remember who else came in that one. I think I know you get. Yeah, I think. Well, maybe they were the ones. I know you got Galatia, Nervii. Arverni were already there, of course. They just got a special unit ability. I don't know. I'm probably forgetting someone. Whatever. Anyway, they're good units there, good factions to have, and you can play them in main campaign as well. Well, of course, Galatia's not in the Caesar and Gaul campaign, but you can play them both in main campaign as well. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this one. Go out, have some Nervii fun, and I will see you later.